For more on the Iran conflict and its disruption of the world's oil supply, let's bring in Senator John Hoeven. He represents the oil-rich state of North Dakota. He also sits on the Senate Defense Appropriations and Energy Committees. How do you assess things in the Persian Gulf right now? The blockade seems to be pretty solid, but so does the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz.
President Trump and our incredible military continue to have an absolute stranglehold on Iran. And as you can see, our military just gets better and better with this naval blockade. You were just talking about it. And so we need to do that. We need to keep the pressure on Iran until we achieve the objectives that we laid out up front, ending their ability to have a nuclear weapon, constraining their ability to have interballistic missiles and this drone capability, and really constrain their ability to continue to be the #1 state sponsor of terror, not only in the region, but in the world. And of course, navigation, freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz.
I want you to listen to something from Congressman Joe Morrell. He's a Democrat from New York. This is how he assesses the situation there in that part of the world. Listen.
The president has managed to disrupt the flow of oil around the world. There's a crude price that is a global price. This is a global market. So for all of his talk about increasing supply in the United States, it doesn't really have as much of an impact on the world's oil supply as he would like. But he's disrupted all that with the war.
We'll get into oil supplies and particularly North Dakota in just a minute. But he's blaming the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz on the president. Is that the president's fault or is it the Iranians?
It's the Iranians, obviously. And I think you'd have to ask that gentleman, does he feel that Iran should have a nuclear weapon? Is he good with Iran having a nuclear weapon that they can deliver with an intercontinental ballistic missile? I'd like him to answer that question. Further, I'd also like him to answer the question that President Trump has enabled us to grow our oil resources in the United States of America to 14 million barrels a day, which is more than we consume. So we are not only meeting our needs, we're helping supply the world with oil and natural gas, a lot more energy thanks to his policies. And those are the things that make the United States stronger and help our allies and make our adversaries like Iran weaker.
But the Iranians, can look at public sentiment in this country, figure maybe if they can just hold on until the November elections, Democrats will take control of the House at least, and maybe they can get, some better treatment from the United States government. How do you see it?
Well, John, that's exactly right. And that's why it's so important that you bring that issue up and that we talk about it. Look, in the short term, yes, oil prices are higher. But because of what we are doing now, because the United States is stepping up, and by the way, NATO should be right there with us, and they need to be right there with us. But because of what the United States is doing, this is about making sure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon that they can deliver. This is about trying to curtail their horrific terrorist activities, not just in the Gulf, but around the world. And ultimately, energy is going to be more available and at a lower price. That's the real benefit here. And people, I do understand that, but we've got to keep talking about that so we don't get caught in this short-term compromise that could be a real long-term problem.
With Iran blockaded and with their ability to store the oil that they're pumping out of the ground, that ability is running very short on time. They're going to have to start shutting down their wells soon if they haven't done so already. Do you think this is going to reach a turning point, this situation?
The only way to deal with Iran is with maximum pressure and strength. They only respect strength and force. And the only way we're going to get the terms that we need to have both upfront and then on a verifiable basis is to keep the pressure on, to keep the blockade in place, to make sure that we have what we need upfront along with the ability to verify it. Again, peace through strength.
The federal government, you talked about energy supplies. Your state, through the Bakken deposit, is a huge oil producer. You're looking to get more oil out of the ground there through this enhanced energy recovery program. How does that work?
right on. We produce 1.1 million barrels a day. Our state produces more oil than some of the OPEC countries. And we're on a project now we call Crack the Code 2.0 in the Bakken, where we want to double that, oil and gas. And not only that, but we're linking it with our coal-fired electric industry to produce a lot more electricity here at home as well. Think about that in terms of the needs with AI and data centers and everything else. And remember, energy independence is also energy national security. But it's not just about making us more competitive, great jobs, keeping energy prices affordable, but it's also about us providing energy to our allies, which makes them stronger as well and weakens Russia and obviously Iran and our other adversaries.
It's been an amazing transformation there in North Dakota. Senator John Hoeven of that state. Yeah, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.